Hi, this is Jim Francis, and we're going to talk about credit spreads in the ATM machine today. This is an option-based strategy. It is not a beginning level option strategy, so you should have a basic knowledge about options. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't do it if you're new. If you're new, it just means you got to spend a little bit of extra time learning about basic options. You might even drop by one of my websites and review my 10-minute basic options strategy video. And then from there, maybe tap into the credit spread side of the fence. Credit spreads is really the use of multiple options. So I'm going to talk about credit spreads, what they are, how they work real quick. I'm not going to give you all the rules. The rules actually take a fair amount of time to learn. Once you do know the rules, though, I mean, literally, if you're good at credit spreads, you can do 8 to 12% per every 30 or 45 days. No guarantee of success. Past performance doesn't equal future performance. Options have risk, but high probability systems. My personal experience is winning 11 months out of 12, 23 trades out of 24. You have to be really careful about the trades that you do lose, because you can lose your shirt if you're not careful and you don't follow the rules specifically or know what you're doing. So always get further education, greater education, get a mentor, paper trade it before you do it. And if you remember, when I was talking about credit spreads earlier in one of my earlier videos, what we're looking for, and I'm going to talk about the Russell 2000 here, is we're looking for this range. We're looking for a range where the indice, the Russell or whatever it might be, and we tend to play indices more than individual stocks. There's a reason for that, and I go into that in my book. But we want to find these positions where there is some safe positions underneath or above, where the market really hasn't traveled during a period of time. And basically the proposition is the following. What we're going to take a look at is, in the next 30 or 45 days, do we believe that the Russell is going to go above a certain point or below a certain point? Now in this example, maybe we're talking about 600 and 800. Do we believe that the Russell is going to go above 850, or do we believe it's going to go below 560 or something like that? Now, I mean, if the Russell's been traveling between 650 and 750 for the last year, as it has been in this case, then the probability in the next 30 or 45 days that it's going to go below the 600 level or above the 800 level is pretty slim. And that gives us a high probability system. Now, many people are saying, what are you saying? That you can actually bet in the stock market that a stock or an index is going to not go above a certain point and below a certain point? And the answer to that is yes. And when we do that, we get paid. And it really is called a credit spread. In fact, if you're taking a look at the bottom one, it's called a vertical put, and at the top one, it's called a vertical call. And I'm going to kind of walk you through these positions really quick in my book and materials. If you go to www.m2spread.com, you'll learn a little bit more about these positions. But I'm going to kind of go over each of these positions really quickly, and you'll obviously want to get more education before you trade it. Just remember this: the first time you go through something, whether it's a new language or a new skill or a new education, it's difficult. Just like when we're learning to drive a car for the first time, we're checking the mirror, we're checking the side mirrors, the back mirrors, we're adjusting the seats, we're worried about the guy in front of us, behind us, but after repetition it becomes old hat. So it becomes uneasier a second time or a third time. So just make sure you spend the time, to get through the Greek so that you do know it. So let's talk about the bottom position called a vertical bull put spread. And let's say that the Russell 2000 is at 700 right now. What we're going to do is we're actually going to sell a position, and we're actually going to do two positions at the bottom. That's why they call it a vertical. Two positions, and we're going to sell a 620 put position for $4.50, and we're going to buy a 610 put position for $4. Well, if we sell something, that's money coming into our account. If we buy something, that's money going out of our account. The net of that is about 50 cents. So literally, we're going to have a credit of 50 cents. Now that would be, 50 cents times 100 shares, which literally means we're going to get, 50 bucks coming into our account. Now, in the Russell, if we're doing 100 shares, it trades at a $10 increment, which means, we've got put at risk here about $1,000 in margin. So I've got about $1,000 at risk to earn $50, which represents about 5% on a 30-day, 45-day kind of window. go into more detail of why it would be 30 or 45 in my book of materials on M2 spread. But for now, $50 on $1,000 invested. High probability system, meaning we probably win 11 times out of 12. Past performance doesn't equal future performance. There's always risk, but a good system. Now, exactly what do we do on the top? Well, we do the same sort of thing, but we do it on a call position. So we're going to get a vertical bear call spread. In that vertical call spread, what we're going to do is sell the 860 position, the call position, for $4.50, and we're going to buy an 870 position for $4. The difference being a 50-cent spread or a 50-cent credit. That's why they call it a credit spread that goes into our account. We're actually getting paid to take these positions. 50 cents times 100 shares, literally means that we're bringing in $50 on the bottom. Now, are they going to ask us for another $1,000? Well, it really depends on your brokerage account, but most of them, the answer is no. And the reason for that is, if I've got a position at the bottom where I've got $1,000 at risk, they're not going to ask me for $1,000 at the top, because they know, in 30 or 45 days, when this position is all said and done, the market can't be at the top and the bottom at the same time, so only one position, can truly be at risk, which means, they're only going to ask us to put that $1,000 up one time. So they kind of give us the top one for free. I mean, we still have to pay for commissions, the tip, to the broker, but at the same time, if I've got $1,000 at risk and I'm making 50 at the bottom and 50 at the top, that's $100. That typically means I'm making about 10% on my money every 30 or 45 days on a high probability system where I might win 11 times out of 12. Guarantees, options have risk, but that literally is a good system. It's a good system because over time, if we play that system, we're putting high probability into our favor. Just show you one quick thing. Let's say we take a look at 2008 as a trading year. And I'm going to go back, back to December 3rd of 2007, and I'm taking a look at, playing in January. And by the way, I kind of knew January was going to be a bad month because of the 200-day, 50-day moving crossover that happened in late November, early December. But at the same time, I wanted to play it, so I took a position, a credit spread position of a 620, 610 on the bottom, and an 870 and an 880 at the top. Back in December, and then in the 45 days ending in January, third week of options expiration, so I wanted to show you in one of the worst months what happened. Well, that market dropped, and when I say dropped, it dropped almost 95 points. It drops 95 points down to 680, but my 620, 610 position is very safe. So I actually made, that 5 or 6% on the bottom and the 5 or 6% on the top, so it had that good 10% month in the month of January, where most people lost literally 15 to 20% of their retirement account. I just say that to show that, this is a great system. It's a great system when the market is moving sideways, but it's also a good system when the market drops dramatically. We can still make money in the marketplace. Now, if you want to learn more about credit spreads and take you into more depth about this, I'm going to ask you to drop on my website, m2spread.com.